Welcome back to the Last Week This Week podcast, episode 75. I'm Ian Scott.
And I'm Zack Huber.
Just, 75 is exciting,
75 is an exciting number.
It is,
We weren't talking about anything before we started recording.
No. But I'm Ian Scott.
Well, yeah, we know that. We already said our names.
Did we?
What is this thing? What is the thing that we're doing?
This thing that we're doing
is
that this is the Last Week This Week podcast, and we are a podcast that gives you nerd topics and film and TV topics from the last week, gives them to you all this week.
Exactly.
And as always, we got a bunch of exciting topics.
Yeah, we're talking about a movie with, again, because we talked about a movie with Nicholas Hoult last week, another Nicholas Hoult movie, The Order, which has Jude Law in it. Talking about some kind of heavy things, but looks really great.
For sure.
We're also going to talk about the Timothée Chalamet Bob Dylan biopic, A Complete Unknown trailer, which dropped a couple days ago, as well as Christopher Nolan is staying at Universal for his next movie and has Matt Damon along for the ride, as well as Ewan McGregor says that Lucasfilm is exploring ideas for a Obi-Wan season 2. So all of that we're going to talk about. But first, we're going to discuss episode 5 of Agatha All Along.
Yeah.
And some pretty big things. Well,
huge. I'd say 2 huge things happen.
Yeah. Some pretty significant things happen in this past episode, which to every YouTuber who thinks that it's I'm sure it does really good, for your
numbers, right?
For your numbers to post a spoiler image on the thumbnail. But anyways, it's been a while. It's been a long time since that episode came out, so I don't think anybody who's not keeping up isn't going to care.
Agreed.
But yeah, do you want to just jump into it, or what do you want to do?
Sure. I know we didn't really get to talk about episode 4 last week. I was saying, I think in our what we watched section last week that it wasn't my favorite episode for sure. I don't know. I think even in this episode, they called it Marvel's cheapest TV show to date. It's expensive,
but it's also,
to me, it feels it. There are points where you really feel it. And last week was the first time where they were playing the band and the fire and the demon. It all felt really cheap. And it took me out of it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I guess for me, I know that it's kind of absurd. We talked about it in the What We Watched, the absurdity of them all being able to play these musical instruments so perfectly and play this song well, and
everyone just knows.
For me, I know it's I can tell the low budget, but it doesn't ever take me out of it. But although this is the lowest budget, and we are going to talk about the episode, but though this is the lowest budgeted Marvel TV show to date, it is the Marvel show that has the what would you call the attention of viewers is the best that it's ever been for any Marvel project. Maybe besides,
wow, any TV show. That's
the retention of viewers and also the viewership going up.
That's surprising because I would have assumed that for WandaVision, because everyone was tuned in at the beginning, but then everyone was talking about it, so you figured the word of mouth would gain the viewership.
I don't,
or Loki,
Yeah, I mean, that was just a statistic that I saw. It had the highest
surprising
retention numbers for a Marvel show,
right?
Which I think is great, and it makes sense because I'm on TikTok and I came across so much Agatha theory content, which just feels really refreshing and fun for Marvel to have this sort of conversation going on. Because nobody was making, Secret Invasion ooh, what's gonna happen next week? And
just us
talking nobody was Well, maybe Moon Knight for a little bit, but like you know, I haven't felt it for a while. Like no one was like, I love Echo. You know, Echo is great.
I feel like the last like kind of really liked Marvel show was maybe Miss Marvel, like maybe, and that wasn't even like incredibly popular.
Well, so. Loki season 2, I feel like.
Oh people, yeah. You're right. Yeah, but I meant like new show, I guess. But
right.
Yeah.
But going into this episode, so we get out of the recording studio. We've defeated this demon.
We're on the Witch's Road again.
We're just sleeping on the road. We're sleeping because
I guess for some reason they were walking a long time. Like I don't know why the road would make them walk a super long time if they're just gonna like need to go to another trial, but I don't know. Yeah, sure.
They're sleepy lesbians. They're all sleepy twinks and lesbians and so we get the Salem 7. They're all in like animal form, which cool.
Yeah,
I get neat.
Like one was an owl.
That's neat.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And like they're pretty creepy when they turn into their more like humanoid forms.
For sure. I think where it got like where this episode kind of got off the rails like really quick was like, well, one, they were like trapped in a spot where like they heard a scream behind them and then a scream in front of them. But then like nothing was happening for a while. They were just able to like grab broomsticks, and I'm like, okay, sure.
I know. Like it was very convenient that they have these huge fucking limbs
that they could
or roots or whatever. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, and then
I liked. I genuinely got a feeling of like joy with that broomstick flight. Like
you did, because I don't know. Like to me, that was maybe like one of the worst things I've ever seen Marvel like put out visually.
Come on.
Visually, that looked terrible. It looks so bad, Zack.
No.
Oh my god,
that is nowhere on the level of seeing.
It was worse than last week. I mean,
no.
Yeah, like, dude, you could just tell the entire thing behind them was green screen. Like it just, it just was so.
I know it was green screen, but like it was fun. It was pretty. Like it was a fun. Whatever.
I wasn't into it.
Fine.
Sorry,
but anyways, we have this broomstick flight. I kind of liked it. And then, you know, they have to come crashing down because the road's like, no,
you can't be up there.
You can't be going up there. The budget
can't be avoiding the road.
We can't afford the budget of you guys to keep doing this. And so they go into this, you know, 80s slumber party. Right. Stranger Things,
which is cool. You know, I'm loving all the different settings. Like this is, it's fun to have a different theme every week. Just like you know, we mentioned with
WandaVision,
right. So yeah, I mean, this was like, you know, and this one was Agatha's trial, which I think we were all kind of eager to see.
Yeah.
And this still, you know, with the Ouija board, and there were some fun hijinks there, but like ultimately. You know, yes, I mean,
conspiracy theories on Facebook and drinking until before.
Right, like the fact that she's still like making fun of this woman that she kind of got killed is wild.
Which, by the way, I saw like a TikTok, and I don't know how airtight this is.
Okay.
But I do have a theory about that. Mrs. Hart.
Tell me.
Well, it ties into.
Later down the episode,
like what the big thing at the end.
Okay, so but yeah, basically after that, the Ouija board starts to actually work, and it basically is saying that it wants to punish Agatha, and we realize that it's like her mother's spirit is in the room with them, and it begins to possess Agatha. Which you know, in the original trailers, that was like the creepiest thing that I'd seen, and it was pretty creepy. Like I enjoyed that.
So I thought you thought it was cheesy looking.
The thing like on all fours.
Yeah,
I don't know. I remembered it. Thought like it looked like a little creepy. Like you know, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering.
I might be misremembering.
I really enjoyed the fact that like Rio or Aubrey Plaza's character was really like actually worried. Like she was like, she thought she was playing, but there's a part of her that actually does care about Agatha.
Yeah.
And it was just surprising to see. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Now you want to talk about CGI that you thought like wasn't that great? I really did not like this ghost CGI.
Yeah. That's funny. I mean, it was fine. It wasn't great, but it didn't like incredibly bother me.
It's funny because that took me out of it.
Really? Okay. Interesting.
But besides that, which I don't care that much. It really didn't bother me to like any. Like
no, but it was cool to see like Agatha's actual mom like come back and speak to us, and but I think what was even like cooler to come from that was how it affected the coven, right? Like where most everyone was like, just yeah, Agatha's awful. Like let's just leave her with her mom. But like, you know, Aubrey Plaza was like, no, obviously I can't let that happen. Her mother tried to kill her. I'm not going to let her be like what she's left with.
Right.
And even Teen is like, yeah, no, we're not leaving Agatha. But then Alice, you know, comes to the defense of Agatha. Out of, you know, I was surprised. I didn't think Alice was like super with Agatha's kind of shit. But
I mean, she was the only one who has powers at this point.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Because she's the only one who was like looking for information and not powers, right? So yeah, she ends up trying to reverse this like possession from the mother, and instead Agatha steals and sucks like the power of her I don't know, her witch power, I guess you would say. And life. Yeah, I mean it sucks the life out of her, and like she's left with this like energy ridden, like lifeless ridden corpse, and you're like, oh my god, Alice just died. Like that's the exciting parts of this show, at least, where you're like yes, like these characters were newly introduced, but even then, like Marvel is very rare with killing off characters that they introduce.
Yeah.
And it's another aspect of like, oh, the Witch's Road is like, oh shit, things are gonna get real. And I think more people will die by the end of this show. But yeah, and you know, Agatha defends herself. She's like, I didn't know I was doing, like, I didn't mean to do that.
Well, she said I couldn't stop it. And like she did say earlier in the show, like, the only way that I can get your powers is if you
blast it at me.
Yeah. So like she's like, I told them what would happen.
Sure, but like, I don't know. I don't think anybody expected Agatha to steal the woman's powers who was saving her life.
I agree. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, Alice dies. Teen is incredibly upset. You know, basically sees Agatha for who she is. And she can't really explain herself. So she leaves the trial because they've passed it, I guess. And
Teen not to mention that he also says during that
he goes to the Ouija board while she's like sucking the life out of her, and he's like, who's in the room with us now? And he screams out Nicholas Scratch, who's the name on the board, which is her son's name. But yeah, he's too late, and I think that's what opens the door, right, to the next, like, to the Witch's Road again, is him saying Nicholas Scratch. I want to say
I can't remember, but it was at least shortly after that, so maybe.
Right. So, yeah, I guess her
maybe the door was already opened. And I
remember it opening though, like after Alice died, I think, or like something like that.
Maybe I couldn't remember if it was like Agatha was possessed, and then the door opened and they're like, you could just leave her, and like that's the punishment for her. But I could be wrong. I forget.
But yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that we don't get to see a Nicholas Scratch.
But it is I think what that symbolized for a couple. Like Agatha knew what Rio said, but you can't really, at least as a viewer, you can't really know if Rio is being truthful or not when she says like that boy is not yours.
Sure,
but the fact that like Teen vocally said Nicholas Scratch, and like obviously that's not the
because he can't say his name without it being jumbled up.
So it's like, okay, well that's not him,
right?
So like there was a bit of like, okay, well it's definitely not not him.
Yeah, and it was, and obviously it was definitely Nicholas Scratch who was like maybe possessing or like doing whatever it was at the end there with Agatha. I don't know if he was in control of that or not.
Yeah.
Because like, I thought it was the mom possessing her again, but maybe I don't know.
It'll be great to know what happens. Cause like obviously we're gonna find out more about her son and how like we're gonna get more information about that. But
yeah, for sure.
But
and
then
maybe like a backstory scene where like she actually gives him up and right. But yeah, go on.
Well, and then they have the confrontation outside after the trial,
which I thought the initial confrontation was really well done. Like I bought Teen's like anger, and like I loved the turn that Agatha made, and like, are you sure about that? Like you're a lot like your mother. Like her line delivery on that was like, she was creepy as hell. Like I loved it. That was like one of my favorite Agatha moments this whole series.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily love what came after that. Because like basically a switch is turned, and I guess he feels like he's been found out, and so or his anger just like takes control of him.
Yeah.
And he possesses the other two witches and has Agatha thrown like off the side of the witch's road and like devoured by the grass. And then he does the same to the other two witches. And now he's alone on the witch's road. And then it's revealed that he's like wearing a different version of Agatha's kind of crown. Like a blue version.
Wanda's
sorry, my bad. Wanda's crown. I don't know. I think that was a little like all that was a little fast for me. I don't think I needed like a full on switch. And like, I don't know. I think they made it so obvious that it was like, yeah, let's give him like the new attitude and a crown and like, and make it so obvious that he's Wanda's son. So I don't think that was necessary, but I thought like the reveal of that moment was very cool. And it's nice to know who that is now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you didn't necessarily have to have that switch, but I also would think like, well, could he really just keep going like as status quo after that comment that she makes?
I mean, why not? Right?
I think we'll find out, but I feel like she's on to him, and
clearly.
But so what I was referring to earlier about the theory that I had and that I saw was that when Mrs. Hart is dead and it's like the beginning of episode 4, she's looking at her, and I think like Teen makes a comment or something, and she was like, I didn't think you had it in you. Like she says, like while she's looking at Mrs. Hart, like I didn't know like you had it like in you, and then like looks at Teen and like winks very subtly, and so it was like, does she know all along that like there's like, did she know that? Because when because we're at the end of this episode where she's like he's saying, no, not me, I'm not going to kill people to get what I want, and she says, are you sure?
Right.
Because maybe she knows that he is responsible for the death of Mrs. Hart somehow that we didn't know. Because another thing that people I saw were talking about is he was the one every single trial so far to find the thing that starts the trial. Like he is the one that finds it every single time.
Every time.
And so I wouldn't be surprised if there was something that happened in those previous episodes that
he's slowly manipulating things around, right, to where things work out in his favor. And I can see it.
Now, as of this moment, I'm not very happy with the fact that this is Billy.
I know you didn't want it to be Billy from the start. Yeah.
So now I want a Billy. I want a Billy, and I want his brother.
Speed.
Speed. But what's his actual name? I forget.
I don't remember. Yeah, I just know it's Speed and Wiccan.
So I would like to have these characters, but the problem is, as of this moment, unless you introduce the Darkhold created another version, and
why is Billy here? Yeah, like that has to be explained.
The consciousness of Wanda lived on and
also just
manifested into a teenage boy.
He just looks so incredibly different from when we last saw him 3 years ago. That bothers me. Like I wish they had gotten an actor who was like any kind of similar to the actor we had.
Or I'm from another multiverse looking for my mom who's not actually
Sure. And maybe they'll explain. I'm sure they will explain it down the last few episodes.
But there's a possibility that this still might be a huge misdirect, because I would say that,
you don't think there's a chance it might not be Billy, is what you're saying?
It probably is, more than likely. But I'm just saying that the crown that he and Wanda have, technically, that's a Darkhold crown. That's not necessarily I would say Scarlet Witch crown.
Yeah, I would
feel
agree.
like she got that after having possession of the Darkhold.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So I don't know. It still could not be him. They better have some big explaining next episode as to how he's. I
don't even think it needs to be next episode. I just think by the end of the series, there needs to be a really good explanation. Agreed. Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Because I think at this point, he's probably going to be the main antagonist of the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm assuming, obviously Agatha and the other two witches aren't dead. And so they'll probably be shot in some under the Witch's Road world, and they'll have to escape or something. And
well, here's the other thing. So the two other witches that got possessed, they're also down where Agatha is. Mm-hmm. Where's Hannah pointed it out? Where's Rio at the end of the episode?
I don't think she ever came out of the last trial. Yeah, she never walked out, which is so weird.
Yeah, so there's going to be some.
You know what it probably
interesting confrontation.
It's because Alice is back there. She's collecting her body.
Maybe.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some huge confrontation between Billy and Rio now. Yeah. Well, I don't know. It was definitely not a perfect episode, but some really cool things happened. I'm excited going forward.
It was probably my least favorite.
It was really short too. It was half an hour.
That was the main thing, because there's a lot of. I don't want to say it's my least favorite. It just was the least engaging in some ways.
Yeah,
just because I think
Go on.
I wish it some of the other episodes, you got to live inside of the trial for a little bit longer.
That's what I was gonna say, is that I really enjoyed the Ouija board aspect of the whole episode, and then that was just felt very short. They did two kind of main things with it, and then it was over. And I was I would have liked more of that.
Yeah,
because it was fun.
Yeah, I would have liked to have more all of the things that we've discussed. Just like given a little bit more time would have been nice.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it was a very fast-paced episode.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get back to more 45, 50-minute long episodes.
Yeah, agreed.
Those are a good length for these. But yeah, that's our review. And we'll be moving on to some trailers now. And our first trailer we want to talk about is for The Order. And The Order is a movie I hadn't heard of until this trailer came out. But it's directed by Justin Kurzel, who's done Assassin's Creed and Macbeth, written by Zach Baylin, who wrote Gran Turismo, the new Bob Marley biopic, and The Crow. And it stars Jude Law, Nicholas Hoult, and Ty Sheridan. But this is a movie about, it follows Jude Law, who's an FBI agent, and he notices there's these bank robberies and going on around town. And
it's like in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. Set in the 80s. And it seems like more and more there's this evidence of a white supremacist group that is pretty prevalent. And he starts to make the connection that these people are behind these robberies and that they're up to something a lot more sinister than bank robberies. And yeah, I don't know. It's a really well-directed trailer. Just like Nicholas Hoult is just in great movies these days, apparently. But yeah, Nicholas Hoult seems to be playing the main like antagonist of this white supremacist group. And the trailer was really good. It was it just gave you all the feels of a crime mystery. And I don't know what you thought, but
this is based on a true story. I believe it's based on a true story. Mm-hmm. And so I guess the white supremacist group is called The Order. That's what they go by. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm just watching this trailer, I'm like, man, this looks incredible.
It does.
This looks extremely exciting, and I can't wait to watch it. I think Jude Law and Nicholas Hoult both are giving great performances just from what I can see.
They're giving.
But it is interesting that the director is the same director for Assassin's Creed and Macbeth, which...
Yeah, Jude Law.
No, I know.
Right?
No, but I'm saying like Assassin's Creed did not do very well.
No, it didn't.
I think Macbeth did fine. So it'll be kind of interesting to see. Hopefully, like this director was like, yeah, Assassin's Creed, there was a lot of problems, and I'm hopefully this is like a triumphant return to making movies, and it's great. Hopefully, and I really like Gran Turismo. Or wait, is that the movie with David Harbour that just came out? Was that what that was?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Sorry. I was thinking of that Clint Eastwood movie about the car. I forget what it was called.
Gran Torino.
Gran Torino.
That is a great movie. Yeah.
So I did not see the new Crow. I did not see the Bob Marley. I did not see Gran Turismo, though I did hear good things about Gran Turismo.
Yeah, I didn't hear good things about the Crow at all. But yeah.
So I don't like. I'm nervous that this is like this looks great, and then you watch the movie and it's not. But it looks exciting. It looks intense. It looks really, it looks exciting.
Yeah, I don't know. I love the tension throughout this trailer. Like, I think it's going to be a really great, I'm surprised. It looks like they're showing a lot of like the orders side of things. And I think we're going to get this this two sides like coming together and basically the tension explodes at one point. But yeah, I don't know. It really does look like a great throwback to 80s dark crime mysteries, thrillers. And we're going up against somebody that everyone can hate. So that's great. Yeah. Everyone should hate them. Everyone should hate them.
Everybody should. Everybody should.
Right.
But I did like your point going into like the order side of things. This wasn't like you are gonna see a lot of that.
Yeah.
Which is in like I do think it's interesting. Not interesting.
I don't think I would have expected that. You know.
Yeah, but I think it's important to show. And the like the FBI in the trailer were walking you through like this is how they get you in, and this is the next step, and this is the next step, and this is how they radicalize their followers. And I thought that was a really great way to understand how it happens. Like I think it's showing how to like because when you think of these groups, you're like, how could somebody. And like it's the same thing with like cults, kind of, where I think it's important to show how it happens, the methodology, because then
it can't really happen to anyone. Like anybody can be suckered into these cults. I feel like,
and then also to show with like, I think, like right from the get go, you're immediately conditioned and should rightfully so to be like there's nothing redeeming about any of those people.
No.
Which I don't know if they're gonna try to give more nuanced takes on them.
They might. I have a theory about that. Yeah, go on.
Because like I think it would be so easy and so it would be easy to just be like bad guys, nothing else to them but bad guys.
For sure.
Instead of showing that even though
like there might be good people within this organization who like are I'm just saying who don't fully believe, who have been like suckered into this, don't want to follow. Right.
Potentially, or just like we see in a lot of TV and like I don't want to say anti-heroes, but like darker, like when you think of like Walter White and you think of like Tony Soprano and all of these like darker characters and shades of gray, like I think it's more human to show that these people, although very terrible ideas that they're behind and that they believe in, you still can understand them. Like they're not just the
I think that's going to be challenging for white supremacists, but
I know. I'm just saying, like, it feels like the movie is like
it's trying to lean towards that,
as like actual people.
I think what could also be the case is that there's this really good line in the trailer where the leader is talking to the FBI agent and is like, "Oh, I'm sure you know all about cults, being that you work for the FBI," and I'm like, I wonder if they're going to show maybe like a darker side of like a federal agency and federal, like the FBI, and show maybe how there are similarities in a cult and with the FBI. I don't know. Maybe they go that route and maybe they show, or maybe they go your route and show like a more lighthearted.
Yeah. I don't know. A lighthearted.
Not, you know what I mean? But not that everything is like black and white, right?
Yeah. And like, I have no, disillusionment of like that. I think the FBI is like completely just like good and like I think like yes, showing those shades of gray is important. I also would wonder, like, because I was reading articles earlier this year about the times that we live in now regarding white supremacist groups and the FBI and how there's the weaponization to say that the FBI is, corrupt and a lot of that comes from and wanting to shut it down and abolish it. It comes from people who are in support of white supremacy. And I'd be curious to know, like, because we talked about earlier that like the term domestic terrorism was brought up, like, I guess like it was an actual made definition by the Bureau in like 2001 after 9/11, that this is in the 80s. So like I'd be curious to know like how much of today's ideas, like the weaponization and trying to say like the FBI should be taken down and relating to, like, I don't know how much of like current day and like more modern ideas are.
I think it would be very smart to speak to that current day theme. I think that would make it even better, to be honest.
I think that's what it is.
That's what it feels like. Yeah.
But I'd be curious to know if there was stuff, if that was actually what was happening back then as well.
Right.
You know, where like this leader of that cult was like, well, you're in a fucking cult.
Right.
I'm in a cult. You're in a fucking cult.
We're not very different, you know? Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
So I think it'll be a really exciting one. I think it's got some strong themes. But that one releases in a couple months on December 6th. So get ready for that. Some great actors, some great directing, great story, it looks like. So I will hopefully be there for it. Another one we wanted to talk about, and I think somehow both of us missed a trailer back in July for this movie, but there's a new trailer that came out a few days ago for
Deadpool
a complete unknown.
So
yeah, that's all. That was all on our minds. We couldn't think about anything else. But yeah, a complete unknown trailer came out. A second one. This is the I guess you could call it a biopic of Bob Dylan, and this one's directed by James Mangold, co-written by James Mangold and Jay Cox, and it's based on the 2015 book called Dylan Goes Electric. But yeah, this was a cool trailer. I don't know a ton about Bob Dylan. I like some Bob Dylan songs. I think you're much more of a fan than I am, maybe, because I know you've been looking forward to this for a while.
Well, yeah, I mean, I am not gonna say that I am.
You're a Bob Dylan fan.
Well, right. I'm not gonna say that like, you know, I know everything about Bob Dylan. I know
sure.
Like cursory information. I know, like I know the problem. Maybe not the controversy, but I know what this movie is building towards. I know like some of the backstory behind that.
Right. I mean, I think the premise is strong. Like I think just going through an artist like life and just being like, yeah, here's a biopic. I don't think that ever worked for me. I think there has to be like a theme or like a something you're building to that happened within their life that was like incredibly important. And I think they've centered it around something very interesting, which is like, from what I can tell, like it's him kind of going from like this acoustic feel to playing like on electric instruments, and that he had, you know, this sound that worked, and the studios were just like, you're not switching. Like this is not happening. You have a sound and you're going to stick to it. But yeah, I think this trailer is really beautifully shot. I mean, James Mangold obviously knows how to direct a movie, even though we didn't like Indiana Jones.
I was gonna say, I mean, he can direct anything, but he can't direct Indiana Jones.
Apparently.
Which, like, but, I've heard people say, I would, you know, rather get Dial of Destiny on physical media than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And I'm like, no,
stop it.
I don't know. Like, I'm a bit of a.
I disagree. I just disagree.
I don't think that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a good movie.
No,
but I will defend that movie compared to Dial of Destiny any day.
I've come to your standing now that Kingdom of Crystal Skull is better, but not much better, but it is better.
Anyways, going into this movie, I think Timothy looks great.
He looks great
as Bob Dylan.
I sometimes it'll happen where like an actor doesn't match the singer's voice in my head. And this one I thought felt really natural. Yeah. Like there was a point where I was like, is that Bob Dylan? Is Timothy like singing that? Or but yeah. So that was very cool.
I think Ed Norton, Elle Fanning, I think they all have they look great. They seem like they have a lot of chemistry, especially Ed and Timothy. I don't know how I feel about like Elle's relationship so far. I don't know much about Sylvie Russo, so that'll be kind of interesting. But like, I like their dynamic. Like, he's a bit more like, he is a bit of an ass to her regarding like the songs that she writes and how he talks about them.
From what I hear, she's playing a character that's based on like somebody. So like the character didn't actually exist. Right. But Edward Norton, I guess Pete Seeger is somebody who was a folk singer back in the day, and I guess is now going to be his manager, I think is right. But I thought it was interesting. I was reading on this movie that they were going to have Benedict Cumberbatch play this role first, but then it went to Ed Norton.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I don't know. I thought Edward Norton looked great. It definitely didn't look like Edward Norton per se, but you could still see his face through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to see him in this. This feels like a really great star-studded cast.
Yeah, to your point about not going through the whole musician's like life,
right?
Which to a certain extent, like I kind of understand that, and like when I think of like Walk the Line, like to a certain extent, that movie didn't go through his entire. It went through a large most of his life, but it did eventually build up to him performing at the Folsom prison, and that kind of
right, like it leads to a point that like where they're changed as a person, or where something incredibly significant in their career happens,
right? And so like I feel like this movie's doing the same thing. I feel like it's the same sort of, in a way, it's the same sort of direction that they're going with that Bruce Springsteen Road to Nowhere movie where it's talking about the recording of the album after Born in the USA, or at least during that time where he was arguably the most popular, and then he goes on to write this really just straight acoustic album that was also like arguably his best. And I think this is a really interesting time period to focus in on, and like event to build up to with Bob, because he came around the same time as like the folk revivalism back in the 60s, which I just finished a book that kind of talked about that a little bit. And basically, from what I understand, like there was a return to form of like, we want to bring back the old styles of like folk music, like younger generations were getting back into it. There was also a level of it kind of tied in with I think the Vietnam War, and there was a lot of counterculture, at least, that was being associated with it.
Right.
And it was kind of, in a way, a rejection of like rock music. And I think when you had Bob, who was one of the leading stars in it, and I guess he kind of had been pigeonholed into this folk hero sort of figure, that he was itching. Like, I think they show Johnny Cash in the movie, and him talking about like, I want to like do more. I want to like expand who I am, and I think that's a good. I talked about Walk the Line. Obviously, that's Johnny Cash. I think that's an interesting thing to bring up with Johnny, because he kind of reinvented himself as playing at the Folsom prison, and the man dressed in black, and changing things up. And so the switch to electric at a only like folk festival where like he debuted like playing electric guitar.
That's pretty wild. Yeah.
Was a big deal.
Yeah.
Especially with how like today, like you see, this isn't today, but like you see Lil Wayne with a guitar, like people are like, oh, that's cool, but nobody's like shouting.
Yeah,
like,
right.
It was
right.
Like,
there were these like lines that people built up, and like you had to stay in your lane. Whereas like now it's do whatever you want,
Right. So it's it was a big deal, and people got really upset.
Now that makes me even more excited, because it's like there's more stakes on the line, right?
Yeah.
No, that's very cool. But yeah, this one it's set in the 60s, I think 60s, 70s, I want to say. I'm not entirely sure. The folk
festival was I'm pretty sure was in the 60s.
Nice. Well, this one releases on Christmas Day this year. I always find that weird. I don't know if anybody really wants to go to the theater on Christmas. Oh, nice. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So if they keep it purely like up to that moment and just kind of do the early like stage of his career, I think that's incredibly exciting. So yeah. I'm hoping that we can review this one maybe in the new year. Maybe it's the first of the new year that we review. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I know I'm gonna see it.
Yeah. Well, so. If you're there, then I'll be there. But yeah, that is our thoughts on those two trailers. And now we're going to talk a little bit about Christopher Nolan's next movie with Universal.
Right.
Yeah.
So a little bit of history regarding this topic. So there was back in the pandemic, there was an initiative called, I think, like the Popcorn Initiative or Project Popcorn, I think is what it was called, where the head of Warner Brothers, who Warner Brothers, Christopher Nolan, had made almost entirely every movie of his entire career with Warner Brothers, was a devout, like he was brought up in the studio. You know, he made Memento. They gave him the movie with Al Pacino that was like a remake for the studio. Forget the name. I never actually saw that one.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
But then, gets Batman. The rest is history.
Right.
But there was a Project Popcorn thing that Jason Kilar, the head of Warner Brothers, decided to do, which was, well, we want money and we want to release these movies, but nobody's really going to theater right now because of COVID. So we're gonna, without talking to any of our filmmakers, just decide to release day and date in theaters and on streaming online.
That was all of 2021, right?
Or maybe it's 2021.
I think it was the entirety of 2021. They like every movie that was coming out in theaters was also like same day on Warner Brothers, like HBO Max.
Maybe it was 2021.
Yeah.
And, there were a lot of people, Denis Villeneuve with Dune, King Kong, Suicide Squad with James Gunn.
In hindsight, it was a really bad idea, to be honest.
I mean, it was a bad idea. Anybody could have told you it was a bad idea then. Because every other movie studio, except for whoever does Trolls, pretty much was like, no, we're not doing that because it's stupid. And so Christopher Nolan got really upset, really upset, to the point where like he's like, I'm not making movies with Warner Brothers anymore.
Yeah. And apparently he didn't even consider Warner Brothers for this new movie. Didn't even, was like, no, I'm good.
Now he did have a meeting recently with David Zaslav. Zaslav, who's the new head of Warner Brothers.
Right.
And said that he was now like more open to eventually coming back. So like, I think like, cause he's not like, David wasn't the reason that this happened. So I think there's like some building of, rebuilding trust and bridges. But he goes over to Universal, makes arguably maybe not his most successful in terms of box office or in terms of, it's not like Batman,
right.
But arguably his most successful and like, I don't want to say culturally successful, but like arguably maybe his best movie ever with Oppenheimer with Universal, almost makes $1 billion, wins Oscars, and everybody loved it, like calling it a masterpiece, like calling it, his maybe his best work. So he wants to move forward with Universal. Yeah. I don't blame him, like maybe it's a bit of superstition. Maybe it's just because he had a really good time with Universal. Maybe it's also like, I'm just not ready to go back to Warner Brothers at this time. But I'm really excited because if we're getting the same sort of like the way that movie, I don't know, that movie just felt so real, and it just felt like the production was like everything just felt like it fell in place, and like I'm excited to see what he does next with them. And this next movie that he's doing is with Matt Damon, who he's now worked with twice, and I think it's, who knows if this is going to be like Matt Damon in a lead role, which would be kind of cool.
Second movie he did with Matt Damon.
He was in Interstellar for a brief.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I forgot about that.
He was the other astronaut on that planet.
Right.
Yeah. And I would love to see a Matt Damon led Christopher Nolan.
He's never been the lead of a Christopher Nolan movie.
No.
But yeah, I agree. I think Matt Damon can hold his own. He's a great actor. I don't think there's really any idea we can theorize on per se. Like,
well, you brought up that. Well, one, the idea, and I think it's been shot down now. The idea was that he was going to do a remake of a 1960s sci-fi movie called The Prisoner.
The Prisoner, yeah,
which
or The
is
Prisoners
not,
or something.
Yeah, which that's not happening. But you did bring up the idea that he was.
Yeah, well, I guess there was another like in the early 2000s he had wrote this movie that another, I can't remember what the other movie was, but another movie had came out and he was like, well, that's pretty much my idea, so I can't really do it now. But it was like a Howard Hughes biopic, I think it was.
Oh, The Aviator.
The Aviator was the movie that came out and was like, I can't really do that. But then, people were saying like, well, in this last press tour he went on for Oppenheimer, he was talking a lot about AI and the future of AI and filmmaking and whatnot. And people are like, well, maybe he's just like with the last press tour where he got interested in Oppenheimer. Maybe this is something that he goes down and makes a movie about AI and does something cool with that with.
He could. I don't doubt. I mean,
like his movies are very like out of the box, conceptual. Like,
yes.
Yeah. And I think he could have a really cool take on AI.
He could. He definitely could. The only thing that I would push back against with that line of thinking is, didn't every filmmaker, during the past year or two
talk about
AI, because so I would be like, maybe he was just talking about it because literally everyone's
asking about it.
What do you think about AI in movies, Chris?
Yeah.
But it could be right now, like, if you have a great idea, go for it. Regarding if because I would be curious to know, like, are we going to see another sci-fi movie? Are we going to do another more real life movie like Oppenheimer or Dunkirk? But like, there's that new AI movie, like, what was it called?
Like a full AI movie?
Do you see it? It's got like the guy from Harold and Kumar is like the dad, and like I forget what I'll look it up real quick. Like there's an AI,
it's not made with AI. You're just saying it's about AI.
Yeah, okay. But it's an AI like horror movie that's coming out. Afraid, and it has the A and the I in Afraid highlighted to show that it's AI.
Right.
And I just go like, oh God, come on. Like we're just.
But it's Blumhouse, dude. You like Blumhouse?
No, I do like Blumhouse. I just think like, I don't know. I just think sometimes when people hop onto like trends like this, I'm like, and maybe it's a really good movie. But like right now it's looking like it's got like a 5 out of 10. So it's kind of divisive.
Yeah, it didn't really make a lot of money. And the reviews are pretty bad. So.
It's just like, I don't know. AI is just such a weird.
Yeah, it can be really cheesy or like incredibly cool.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like he's not been one to like jump on these trends. Like nobody was talking about like dreams as much when Inception came out, and nobody was like, there wasn't like a huge push for, interstellar travel or talking about time. Like his whole thing has been time in a certain way. So like it would be, so if it was AI, it would have something to do with AI and time, most likely.
Most likely, sure.
Most likely.
Which I think that's very easy to do. I mean, maybe not very easy, but I think you could
do it.
I think you could tie it. I don't know. I think there are themes of like maybe like gaining back time with AI or like lost time by losing human interact. I don't know. Yeah.
What if we just had the AI do your shopping and save you some time?
There you go. That's the movie. There's an app.
Maybe
it's called Instacart.
Yeah. maybe it's like that Adam Sandler Click movie, and it's like, let's skip past this.
That surprised the hell out of me as a kid. I don't think I was like prepared to see like an emotionally like really deep movie from Adam Sandler. I just wasn't.
That was such a good movie. It really hit me. I was like, oh yeah, like I don't want to skip any of this.
No, of course not. Yeah.
Oh my God.
No, really good message with that one.
Yeah.
That's funny that we got to an Adam Sandler click off of Christopher Nolan.
Watch, it'll be Matt Damon and Adam Sandler in the next Christopher Nolan movie.
That would be a duo.
Which, like, granted, like if you could get Adam Sandler to do what he did in Uncut Gems.
Sure. I mean, at that point, he's like at the best of the best of acting, like with Uncut Gems.
That was crazy.
He was great.
I want more of that. Like, where is he?
Here's the thing. I think if it's not the same, but like I think if you want another like pretty good, well directed, well acted movie, there's that. It sucks that I'm blanking on the name of it, but there's like that basketball movie he put out on Netflix a year or so ago.
Yeah.
That was well done. I don't think it was great, but it was good, and you might enjoy it, even though you're not a basketball person.
I still like sports movies.
Okay,
I enjoy them.
Yeah, I mean they got a good arc and a good kind of momentum going. So
because it was him with like. Who were the kids again?
So, I know like the main like other co-star in that movie was like an NBA player who like was going into acting. His name was like Juan Hernan Gomez, I think, or Juancho Hernan Gomez. And then there like also another like there was like just like a ton of NBA personalities and stars in that movie.
Oh, okay.
I think funny enough, Queen Latifah was his wife in the movie. Which I thought was an interesting choice, but they had good chemistry. So
nice.
Yeah. I can't remember anybody else in that one though. But yeah.
See, when I was thinking of that like Ben Affleck, like I was an alcoholic. Now I'm teaching this basketball team.
It's not that like it's like not that serious at least.
The Woody Harrelson, like I'm gonna teach this team of like kids with special needs and.
Right.
There's a lot of like, I don't know. There is definitely like a genre of sport movie where it's like washed up coach teaches team.
For sure. There's a lot of that. Yeah.
And they make a big comeback and it's like,
and so, I think what we're saying is that Christopher Nolan needs to make a washed up coach and have a mentor figure and a mentee figure.
Yeah.
That's that. He just needs to get away from all of his themes. And then, and Matt Damon will be this coach movie. And it'll be great. It'll be great. Because everyone loves a turnaround, a comeback.
What sport would it be?
Let's just go really random and go like lacrosse. It's just
Can you imagine how like amazing the throws in slow motion could be? Like the cinematic throws of a lacrosse ball,
especially from the lens of Christopher Nolan. I mean, it would be amazing. So
no CGI,
none. Yeah. Give him like a $15 million budget. That's all you need.
Yeah.
I think he could do it.
Yeah. I think Christopher Nolan make a comedy. Like a raunchy, comedy,
like a 2000s comedy. Yeah.
With Matt Damon and Adam Sandler.
Perfect. Yeah, Matt Damon can do some comedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, we'll
so call us up, Christopher Nolan. We'll write the script and help you out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's our thoughts on Christopher Nolan and his next movie. Last up, we also wanted to discuss the news that I think it was like I can't remember what convention he was at recently, but he basically was like up on stage. Ewan McGregor, I'm mentioning, and he basically said to the fans, "We're looking at at possibilities for season 2 of Obi-Wan." He mentioned that he wants to wear the old Clone Wars armor and do some stuff with Rex possibly, and yeah, I can't say this is something that either of us have wanted.
Yeah.
but here's the thing. I didn't like the things I enjoyed about the first season of Obi-Wan was purely just like the performances. Like I love seeing Ewan McGregor back, even though I didn't love the broken
man, just a sad.
Yeah, well, that wasn't the most fun,
but like of a man.
It made sense for the time, right?
Yeah. I those were the best parts of it.
Agreed, and I don't think he would have to make like a season 2 like correlate from season 1. I think it can be an entirely new story. And I think what he's kind of mentioning, like for the Clone Wars armor stuff, is like for flashbacks, maybe.
Yes, yeah.
But I honestly think you could set it at any point in Obi-Wan's life, and it kind of work. Like it would be
so weird for like season 2. Oh, we're just strictly
back in the Clone Wars.
We're just only doing a Clone Wars story.
It would be weird. But I don't think anyone's really wanting like a direct sequel to the first season. At least I'm not.
Leia, you're back.
That would be really rough if it's Leia. Yeah, I think
I'm going on an adventure with Luke. Then he's never gonna hear from me again.
Yeah, I don't want it to have anything to do with like the main canon.
Yeah.
I think what their original idea was for season 1 was to have like Darth Maul be the antagonist of the first season.
Yeah, and but we already know how that goes. Like
yeah, right. It's the same thing. Like, yes, neither of those characters can die until like their time in episode 4 or their time in Star Wars Rebels. But yeah. I feel you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not completely opposed to an Obi-Wan season 2, because as much as there were things that I really tried hard to reason with, of like, I mean, like technically
this tracks.
She calls him Ben, and then refers to him as her best friend, and then only refers to him as Obi-Wan, and never really acknowledges their relationship prior to that in episode 4. But like, yeah, I mean, it kind of works.
That's what bothers me so much, is that like Leia never once mentioned that like she knew Ben, like not once.
Not once.
I don't know.
This whole adventure
where he had to save her twice from being kidnapped. Like that's a pretty big deal. And yeah.
So like, as there was that, there was the Reva stuff, which was just like,
oh, I hated all
not good.
I mean, no shade to the actor. I just didn't like any of that
shade.
story.
No, yeah.
And I know a lot of the controversy was around like her, right? But
no, none to the actor. It was just, like you said, the story, the character just did not
land.
No.
Yeah.
But like, it was there. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I like Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. If they wanted to move forward and do another story where like maybe he's even more like grayer, like sure,
like it's getting more close to the time of episode 4 is what you're saying.
Yeah, or
sure. Like I don't mind that. I just have no idea what story you tell at that point.
Yeah, maybe something with Qui-Gon, or something with maybe you bring in somebody to play Cal Kestis, and he meets Cal Kestis.
That'd be great. I would love that. But like they also messed up the Qui-Gon stuff at the end of the season for Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and by the way, like I don't need it. It would be cool. It would be cool, but like it was cool to see Hayden Christensen do the flashback scene to him in the Clone Wars. But I don't need it. Like, I don't need a whole season. Like, it's the same thing with hey, wouldn't it be cool to see Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan fight Darth Vader? Yeah, but like, you made a whole season that I just really felt like all you wanted was to do that, and like some of it was
like,
cool,
yes, the fight was good, right?
Kind of ruined canon in some ways,
right? Like, it's like it doesn't logically make sense. Like that, yeah, like the fight was cool, but like the way they left and like why would Obi-Wan just keep him alive? Like, it just none of it makes sense, right?
Yeah,
it's like it's very forced.
It just felt like, well, this will excite people, but we're not. It just felt like, for lack of a better term, like a cash grab.
Agreed.
It didn't really feel like Obi-Wan really, like, I guess in a roundabout kind of way, got his mojo back.
But like, I don't know, the progression wasn't good, and I don't know, like by the end of the season, like it felt like he just kind of like magically gained it back, and I don't know, it wasn't great.
It really wasn't.
And I don't know. I'm totally fine not revisiting. I also wouldn't be surprised if, like, I don't know if you remember the Jon Snow spinoff that they were working on.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it just goes that way, where they all are passionate about making something with that character, but there's just not a story to tell. There's not a necessary story to tell, and so they just maybe put it on the shelf. I think that's realistically where this goes.
I mean, like, because like, what more do you need to do with Obi-Wan as a character?
He's arced. He's fully arced. Like, like what else you need to tell? I don't.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe love story wise, maybe he finds some love. I don't know. He did that in the Clone Wars, but
like, yeah, if you wanted to make a Clone Wars story. But I just really don't see the point, other than just like, it'd be cool to see him in the armor. It's like,
I think what would be maybe better is if I don't know, maybe he voices like a Clone Wars style like animated show for Obi-Wan. I don't know. Maybe. But then everyone would be like, well, that's not the Clone Wars actor, because it's a different actor who voiced Obi-Wan.
I really hope they just don't do, like, explore ideas, fine. But
right. If it's not like a drop dead, like, this is like everything, I don't know, that I want, and it's exciting. I don't know. Like, it's got to be perfect.
If it was to help, like, they did introduce the idea of like the Jedis on the run, that they have this kind of like underground railroad system that they've set up.
Sure, maybe he develops that.
Yeah, like if you wanted to dive into that, I could be on board with it.
Right, but like, do they? And that's the thing, is that I don't know if that would ever like would they be interested in that? Because do like Obi-Wan and Darth Vader ever meet up at that point?
Oh my god!
I think that's what they care about.
Another fight.
I think they would care about like an Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul again, or an Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader, and yeah, we don't need it. We don't need it. Right? It could, like, genuinely. If you did a show, like, I that's my favorite idea so far that we've come up with, is that he develops the Underground Railroad for Jedi and is saving Jedi while he's on Tatooine, and he's not going up against a Darth Vader or Darth Maul. He's going up against Inquisitors who might discover the railroad at some point, or I think the Inquisitors are all great characters that you can keep using.
But they can't keep, like, that was part of the problem. Like, they can't stay. He can't have them be coming to Tatooine. You know what I mean?
Well, then maybe he goes off world and develops this, and I mean, which again doesn't make sense for him looking out for Luke, but. Whatever. Yeah,
exactly. Sure. Like that. Yeah. That is another problem. Like,
right, he needs to stay on Tatooine.
Could you, droid? Can you keep an eye out on Luke? Could you radio me if you see him get, I don't know, shot?
Yeah, Yeah. Honestly, if they wanted to do anything, like maybe a short would be the best route for them to go. Like a 45-minute, hour long, like they did the specials for Marvel. Because I think what I really enjoyed from that Obi-Wan was mainly the first episode where you got to see his life and like what he was doing and like him talking with Senator Organa, and I don't know. I thought all of that was really well done. You got some aspect of like the Jedi Underground Railroad, like a Jedi came to him for help. Yeah, I think all of that was strong, but the more you expand, the worse it gets. So maybe just keep it really limited.
Keep it so limited.
Just 45 minutes, and that's all we need. Yeah. I don't know. I
wouldn't touch it.
I wouldn't either. We can just leave that in the past and forget about it.
I don't even count it as canon in my head.
And I feel like we haven't come clear. At least I haven't come across as an Obi-Wan. Like, I love the character of Obi-Wan. I think he's amazing in the prequels. If the first season was any better, maybe I would like more, but I don't. So yeah.
I don't.
That's our thoughts. Really don't. But yeah, that's our podcast for this week. I don't know if you got to watch anything within this past week that you want to talk about.
Oh, we tried watching The Thing again, and we got sleepy, and then we tried I tried having Hannah watch Ready or Not, and we got sleepy. So
just getting sleepy all the time.
It was because we started late. Like, we had a wedding yesterday, and we were like, I'm falling asleep, she's falling asleep.
Yeah.
I don't think I really have watched much besides Agatha, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I've continued my Harry Potter watch through. And so yeah, Chamber of Secrets is great. It's a nice like in between movie for 1 and 3, because like you would I don't know, in my mind I always looked at 1 and 2 as like these bright-eyed like whimsical fantasy.
Yes.
But like 2 gets pretty dark.
2 gets dark. Yeah.
And I mean, like the spider scene and like Ginny being possessed. I mean, like all the kids being petrified. Like, it's a darker movie, and I like that it's a progression into 3. But yeah, and then I also watched the Apple exclusive movie Wolves.
Yeah.
That was good. It was definitely a fun one. I think my problem initially was that like the trailers show you so much of like the first half hour of the movie that like you're not surprised by really anything that's happening in the first half hour. But after that, like the chemistry of George Clooney and Brad Pitt is really fun, and there's some good humor. And then like they insert the person who they're like, I don't know if you remember in the trailer, but like the person that they like go to clean up is alive.
Yeah.
And so like his presence into like their kind of trio is like a really fun kind of aspect. And I don't know, they all bounce off each other really well. But then there's actual kind of mystery going on over the entire movie that it's a tad hard to follow, but like it comes together at the end. And I don't know, I think it's a really enjoyable one. It's not great, but I would recommend it.
Cool.
Yeah, it's got some good action too, but yeah, I think if anything, I was wanting a little more like just really like, I don't know, there weren't any like special shots. It was just kind of like, you know, New York in the winter and snowing, and so it wasn't like amazingly beautiful movie, but it was it was well directed and well shot. So, but yeah, and then I also watched The Apprentice.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll give a light review for that. That one I really enjoyed as well. It wasn't as great as I was wanting it to be. That one goes through like the 70s and 80s, and funny enough, like we were talking about it with the Bob Dylan biopic, how biopics have a purpose, and like it's cool if they just like limit it to this one area. And they kind of try and do that with this one, but I think they could have done it like even like a shorter amount of time.
Okay.
Because like I feel like the second half of the movie loses the plot a bit for me, where it just becomes like this biopic of like going through the history and like giving you the context. And there doesn't really seem to be like, I don't know, like a point or a message that they're getting to. Because I feel like most of what you need to know is in the first half of the movie. And I don't know. I think there's some pacing problems where like something will happen and then they'll skip a few years and you'll be like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But I mean, like overall, the acting for Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong, like they were great in that movie. And you know, all the sets and the way the 70s and 80s New York looked was great.
Did it illuminate anything for you? Like, did it change anything in your head about like anything at all?
I don't think so. I mean, if you already have an incredibly low opinion of Donald Trump, then I think you're not going to be like incredibly surprised by anything that happens.
But does it give you like a better understanding of like who he is and why he does the things that he does?
Yes. I think there like is
more than you knew before.
I mean, because like you get the context of like who he was before he met Roy Cohn, and he wasn't like this incredibly bad guy, but like he had ambitions and he saw that Roy Cohn was somebody who could get him where he needed to be. And you know, the more he was in this life and learning from Roy Cohn, the worse of a person he became. And so like you understand the progression. Like the progression isn't bad, but I think at a certain point, like it progresses up until he has, like, for me at least, until he has a wedding. And then after that, it doesn't feel like it feels like he's become the monster he is. And like there's not a ton more left to tell, but they're going through like the history of, you know, certain things that are happening. And I don't know. I think this movie would have been smarter to lean more into like maybe a feud of like Roy Cohn and Donald Trump, because I think like those two are the focal point for like the first half of the movie, but then kind of Roy Cohn disappears for a while. I don't know. I think yeah, they could have had a better, I don't know, message or point for the whole movie.
Gotcha.
But I do think you get this sense of like why Donald Trump is the way he is and why he does the things that he does. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm fairly certain I'm gonna see that this week. Nice. So
cool. I'm excited to discuss it with you.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, other than those, I mean, just continuing Survivor. Yeah, and then watching The Penguin, but we are reviewing that this week since we recording on the day the Penguin comes out. So
yeah.
But yeah, that's all I've been watching. So but yeah, I guess that is the end of our podcast. As always, we want to thank you for watching and listening. We like to release our episodes on Mondays and clips on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. If you want to follow our social medias, the links to those in the description below. And if you want to give us a like, a comment, a rating, a review, or subscribe, we greatly appreciate it.
And as always, until next time.